I hate the enemy, okay? He feeds us the lie. You are the name the kids call you at school, so you are deemed unworthy. You are an epileptic, so you are deemed unusable. That's what he says. God says, I use imperfect people.
I'm Susan Goss, and as a seasoned therapist of more than 15 years, I'm honored to have had the opportunity to gain so much wisdom from so many people and love passing that knowledge on to others. So join me and some of my favorite friends as we share some tangible truths with you.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Tangible Truth Podcast. I'm Susan Goss, and joining me again is Rashel Townsend. Hey,
Hi,
Rashel.
Susan.
I cannot wait to jump right on in with episode 2 of our relationship with our body.
Me too.
Oh, what a fantastic conversation that was on the first episode. I mean, food for thought.
Yes.
I mean, it was so good.
Yeah. And I think no matter who you are, young or a little bit of a seasoned saint or, man or woman, I pray the conversation last time is helpful for everybody out there.
I do too. It's very important to talk about. And it's interesting that we just don't talk about it enough, actually.
Yeah.
And so I just appreciate your vulnerability that you had with the audience. Last episode already had great feedback from the listeners. So thank you, Rashel.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah. It was really, really great.
Well, I'm 30, talked a little bit about my life experience with my relationship with my body, but I would be curious to hear coming from you, somebody who has lived more years than me, gone through multiple life stages that I haven't yet gone through, but just what has God been teaching you about your body over the years and how has it maybe been shaped?
I am one of those seasoned people. That's funny. But no, I really am. But it does take me all the way back to my elementary years. And
so it started young.
It did. For me, I know that for you, it was later on in life, in your late 20s, actually, if I remember right.
Yeah, when I identified it. But, I can trace it back to middle school, high school, those early years as well, where that seed was planted.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was definitely early on. In my elementary school years, I did not have a growth spurt at all till later in life. And in elementary school, I was not a small girl. I was a large girl in elementary school. And the kids back in the day when I was in elementary school called me Fatso. That was the name. And doesn't that sound so cruel?
Awful.
But, kids can be. But they did. And so I got called that and I got called other names. But it was a difficult thing, as you might imagine, to hear. And I remember it very specifically in the 3rd and 4th grade in particular. In the 3rd grade, I write about it in Circle Talk. Because I identified it. I asked God to take me back because there's a button you can push even today, a devalue button. I have a devalue button, but God took me right back to the 3rd grade. Back in the day in elementary school, the desks were attached. So you have a seat and then your desk was attached and my pencil dropped on the floor. And when I reached down to pick it up, the whole desk fell over. And so the teacher asked this boy, who's a real cute boy, to help me. Well, when he did, the whole desk came up with me, and the class erupted in laughter, that kind of thing. Wow. So I had some embarrassing moments. Yeah. And in the 4th grade, the teacher asked everybody to chart their weight and height. And there was one girl that was larger than me, and she had gotten permission from her parents that contacted the teacher for her not to chart. So it looked like I was the largest. Yeah. And they would make fun of that. So I had a lot of that. But I had a friend group that was wonderful and we played together. We had great time, which was so fantastic. So I had my own community that was phenomenal. And I never remember not having wonderful friends.
Wow.
Even though I had name calling and all that kind of stuff. So I vividly remember my wonderful friends. I had wonderful friends at church. I had wonderful friends at school, even though I had all this other going on.
Yeah. What a gift.
It was a gift. And I would go home and I would share that information with my mom and dad. And they encouraged me just to keep, doing what I was doing, having my friends and I didn't want them to go up to the school. I wanted to hold my head, just to encourage me to do my work, hold my head up, be Susan, they would say, play with my friends and try to ignore, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
But in the end, I will tell you, when I was in the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, I grew like a weed and got braces, got glasses, grew like a weed and changed like nobody knew who I was,
Wow.
When I was in the 8th grade. And people that weren't nice to me before, that were calling me names, were nice to me.
Wow.
And I knew the difference.
Yeah.
And I said to them, listen, you weren't nice to me then. Why are you nice to me now? I'm the same person.
Wow.
And I would say that to them. And I said, you need to be nice to everybody.
Yeah.
And I was real curious with
That's
them.
powerful.
Why are you nice to me now? And I'm the same. I'm Susan. I'm still, and they're like, you're Susan Schambarger? And I was like, yes. Why are you all of a sudden nice to me?
Yeah.
And I'm saying that to say it changed me that I had all those people call me names and everything. Today, it's like it is such a deep appreciation and there's such a deep sensitivity to all people. And I am so grateful for going through what I went through.
Yeah.
Wasn't grateful then.
Right.
But I am now. And I'm grateful for those moments in the 7th and 8th grade for me being able to say what I said then, like, why are you being nice when you weren't nice then? But I was friends with them. I just needed to say that.
Right.
Like, do you see that I'm the same person now? And some said, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't speak to you then. Sorry I called you names. Others didn't.
Wow.
But I was still very nice to them. And my father used to always say, remember, you're no better than anyone else. It doesn't matter what you look like, what size you are, who you are. And I would always say back, oh, I know that. And I think body image kind of went away in my mind when I went through all of that.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Because he kept saying that to me. Remember, you're no better, and that stuck with me forever.
Wow.
And everybody looks the same to me because I went through that experience.
Yeah.
So that was early on when I was a little girl.
Wow.
Was my first experience. And then fast forward, we use in therapy a lot how our bodies sometimes betray us. You were talking about your gallbladder.
Yeah.
Kind of busted out on you. But when I was later in life, I had a really horrible car accident. It was a head-on from a drunk driver. And a lot of things happened because of that. I'm an epileptic.
Yeah.
And I also have severe double vision, but so I can't drive at night. And I'm fine during the day. Don't worry. You've driven with me.
Yes, I've
driven
sat
with
in your
me.
passenger seat. Which, Susan, can I say that I don't think anybody would know that that is part of your story and the way in which you carry yourself, which we can talk more about later, but is really inspiring and encouraging.
Well, thank you. I so appreciate you saying that because God and I had a long talk about that. But I will tell you why. Is because I went to an epileptologist in Dallas, Texas. And when I went in his waiting room, my life changed because the person on my left could not write. I mean, they could, but it was not legible. And the person on my left, I can't remember their story. I just remember talking to them and it was unbelievable. And when I got in the room, he said, Yes, you're an epileptic. You will be an epileptic for the rest of your blah, 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 blah. He explained everything. And when I left that office and got in the car to drive home, I just bawled. And I told Steve, I said, I'm the most blessed human in the world.
Wow.
I can write. I just started listing everything I can do. I said, these seizures will never stop me from doing God's work.
Wow.
Ever. And yes, I am an epileptic, but that does not define me. It does not define me.
Yes.
And it's not going to.
Right.
Ever. Period. The end. So I could be home in case I have a seizure, because the first several years I had them all the time, but I did not stay home.
Wow.
I mean, if I had them, I dealt with them.
Yeah.
But I made a decision not to stay home. And the same is true with the chronic, I've got chronic pain.
Yeah, from the accident.
From the accident.
How old were you when that happened, the accident?
In my 30s, my late 30s.
Wow. So you've lived a lot of life with this being your story and your everyday.
It's absolutely real, but I'm so grateful that we finally, after so many years, found the right medication for my seizures.
Wow.
We tried about 8 and finally found one that has kept me seizure free. And then on the other, with the pain, I'm stubborn. I told you I am stubborn as an ox. And I work out best I can and have somebody that helps me with that, and a physical trainer. And we work at it, and I move a lot. But my profession keeps me in a chair. So I have to work on that a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm in a constant conversation with God about, God, what does this look like? God, I need you to show me what margin looks like for me. I'm just in constant conversation with Him.
Well, the story that the Lord has given you is such a powerful one. And something that you said earlier that's just stuck with me is that this is not your identity. And I think that is so important, that you are so much more. God has created you for such greater purpose than what your body may be labeled with, whether that's epileptic or chronic pain or the words that the kids were saying to you early on in elementary school. Like, words can be powerful, so powerful, and they can shape how we think about ourselves and how we view ourselves and our identity. But I love the reframe that you gave in that, of that this is not my identity. Can you speak a little bit into that of, man, how can we have that same reframe and not let our bodies tell us who we are, but let God tell us who we are?
I am first and foremost a child of God, and I hate the enemy. Okay.
He's the worst.
He is the worst. I call him something that I don't think I can say on the Tangible Truth podcast, okay? Because he is that's something that I can't say. Because he feeds us the lie of, you are blank. You are the name the kids call you at school. So you are deemed unworthy. You are an epileptic, so you are deemed unusable. You are in a rack of pain, so you can't do that. So that's what he says. God says, I use imperfect people. I can use the pain. Where you are weak, I am strong. And Christ can do the impossible. So my identity rests in Christ. So I am Susan Goss, a believer in Jesus Christ. That's where my identity rests. That's who I am first and foremost. Then I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother, director of Tangible Truth. I mean, I go therapist, all the things. And do I happen to have seizures? Yes. But it's not who I am.
Right.
But we all have our issues. And you just had your gallbladder out and you've not been able to exercise in a year. And then we just go on. But it's not who we are. It's not who we are. It's what we deal with every day.
Right.
And Paul dealt with something till the day he died.
Yeah.
In Scripture, Paul asked to have it taken away the entire time he was a disciple, and God chose not to take it away.
Yeah.
And I always say perhaps so that Paul would stay dependent on Christ.
Yeah.
I don't know. But we won't know till we're in heaven because we don't know the answers. Those are unanswerable questions here on earth. We will someday find out. But I think that would be my answer, is to focus on my true identity. Because if I focus on the issue, that becomes my focus. If I focus on the epilepsy, if I focus on the pain, if I focus on that, then I'm totally derailed from my mission, my purpose, from Christ, and I will stay in bed.
Yeah. It's so easy to get trapped in that.
And I'm not denying the pain. I don't want the listeners to think, well, it's easy for her to say, because they don't know my story. They don't know how much pain I'm in. And I don't know how much pain they're in. I'm not poo-pooing the pain at all.
Yeah. And on those days where you can't do anything, where the expectations that you had for that day have changed because you are limited by your body.
Right.
On those days, it's even more important to lean into Christ.
100%.
But your body's natural leaning and comfort is to stay in the darkness and to hide.
100%.
So it's a battle.
Oh, every day. Even in Hosea, it says our natural tendency is away from God, if you can believe it. We would never say that.
Never. We want to say, oh, of course, I'm going to lean into Christ on this day when it's really hard. But when you're put up against it, it is a battle.
Yes.
It's one that we have to fight
every day
with Jesus.
And he knows that. That's why he wants us totally dependent on him and with him every day to fight the battle. I cannot wait to episode 3. I cannot wait because we're not near finished with this.
No.
I've heard your story. You've heard mine as far as how we morphed into kind of a language about our bodies and how it has kind of morphed, but we're not near finished with the language, talking about the relationship of our body, because there's so much more.
So much more.
There's so much more.
I'm excited to dive into even more of exposing Satan's lies.
Oh, so
we got a lot to talk about there.
Yes. So stay tuned. We love you, listeners. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Tangible Truth Podcast, part of the KLRC Podcast Network.